Tropical Smoothie Cafe believes you deserve a getaway every day, not just once a year. Summer mocktail smoothies are here for a limited time at Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Mocktail hour on the pool deck is just a sip away. Visit one of Tropical Smoothie Cafe's 1,400 locations or order online or through their app. Hey everybody, welcome to Pink Shade. I'm excited because today I have a very special guest. It is Olivia Plath from Welcome to Plathville. You guys know I interviewed Ethan and Olivia together, I think 3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And then I interviewed Olivia last year as well at the end of that like crazy season where they, decided to get divorced. And Olivia is back with this new season of Welcome to Plathville to talk about what's going on. And she's got a brand new look.
I did not realize this is my third time here. I thought it was my second.
You and Ethan came on together and you guys were like, I don't know where you were located in a bunker somewhere, but you guys were like on a couch with a laptop on a coffee table, like really far away from you. And the Wi-Fi kept cutting out. So it was like you would talk, but it would be like a delay because you were so far.
I guess my mind blocked that. I didn't want to remember that time. So
I think so.
Third time's the charm. Here I am.
That's
again.
right. Because I asked you at that time about the question about the deodorant and the toothpaste, because I was very interested when you had mentioned that. And that's when you guys told me that something in the deodorant or the toothpaste get into your spine and give you Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, say what now?
You and me both.
But that was that conversation. And then the last one, of course, was I was so happy to talk to you last. That was when you had just like moved to LA. And yeah, it was fantastic. So, all right, how are you feeling about this new season? I mean, are you watching it as it goes or how are you doing it?
I watched the premiere episode with a friend of mine, and I watched part of the last one, but I didn't finish the whole thing.
Okay. So you have not got through episode 3.
No. And I guess there's another one dropping tonight.
That's episode 3, I think. Is three.
No.
3 is tonight, Tuesday.
Yeah, I didn't watch all of 2. Yeah.
Okay. I've watched all of it. So yes. So are you still in touch with Ethan at this like current live time?
Unfortunately, no, which we honestly need to be. Because as you guys have seen on like the first 2 episodes, figuring out how to get divorced was a process and still somewhat is. We did end up filing, but there was like issues with the paperwork. So it was administratively dismissed.
Oh,
and we have to refile. We have to like fix things. At this point, I think I just need to get a lawyer. We were trying to do it without lawyers, and I think I just need one now because it's like really hard to do it all on my own.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Seems like you guys could just sit down and pay a mediator for like 3 hours to just sort of like sort it all, just like one person between the two of you. If there's no like big things between you to settle, then that could work.
Yeah. As of right now, like he doesn't want to be around me. So if we do talk, it's like through like a text or something, and even that, not right now. So
okay,
it's like on my mind all the time that I need to get it done.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. Still on my to-do list.
Okay. To do. Number 1, get divorced.
Yeah.
Number 2, go for a run.
Yeah.
So I want you to remind me, because as we're kind of going into this season, and I consider myself a Welcome to Plathville anthropologist expert, like there's really almost nothing you could ask me, but I was trying to remember the 3 things that he said were non-negotiables. The one that stuck out for me was you have to have love of country and God. Okay. That to me was like strange. But what were the other 2 that were on his list of 3? He just had those 3 things.
This like 3 list thing is actually a little bit of a myth. That was said like when we were shooting that scene, and he was like, well, it was only like 3 things on the list. It was not just 3 things on the list. It wasn't even like he wrote out a list and handed it to me. He just told me, he was like, here are some things that are going to happen if we're going to stay together. One of them was that I would have to like become religious again, and like go back to church, raise our kids in church. One of them was that I would have to vote like Republican, be conservative, like that whole sphere. And then the other one was pretty much like what our kids were going to be allowed to do, see who they were going to, be allowed to be, all of that. So to me, that's way more than three things.
Three pretty big things, I would say.
Yeah, and there's a lot
Mm.
of like nuance and different facets to those as well. So they're not exactly like three things on an itemized list. In my mind, that's a pretty comprehensive list of what your entire
Yeah.
life looks like.
There's a lot of subsets to each point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So recently, you did like an AMA on Instagram, and I don't know what the question was, but you did say that the final straw for you was when Ethan said he would not be able to accept a child that you had together if the child was gay. Now, did he actually said that to you? I would disown my child if they were gay?
Yes. And I think that, a lot of people have a lot of different feelings about politics and things. So a lot of that stuff doesn't make it on the show. Everyone has a personal life of what they
Yeah.
believe and what they do. But
Right.
off cameras in our personal life, yeah, that was a really big thing for him.
Well, I mean, okay. Okay. I'll just leave that there because I don't even know what to say. Because, like,
Me either.
how are you going to predict what? I don't know. Okay. All right. I'll just leave that there because that's upsetting. So, what we see is he was so opposed to your views, your, being more on the liberal side of things. He was very opposed to that. So then, like, right when he saw you, he's immediately like, that's my woman. I got to have her back. I mean,
Yes. Okay. So this whole past year has been like so much change and starting over and unexpected things. Probably at the very top of that list was him wanting to get back together when I went back to Minnesota to file paperwork.
mhm,
He was the one that told me like there's no future for us together unless you change. And I was like, well, I'm not changing, so I guess it is over. Like, fine.
right. Right.
I never expected to go back and have him be like, no, I don't want to sign. I don't want this to happen. That shocked me.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And your point on the show that you said was interesting. You said, this actually just reminds me and cements it in my mind of
Mhm.
why I don't want to be with him because it is a complete roller coaster. You support me, you don't support me, you love me, you don't love me, you want kids with me, you don't want kids with me. And so now he's like, and now I want you back. And you're just like, we haven't even seen each other in months and you want me back?
Yeah. Yeah. I no. I can't I knew that I couldn't navigate that for the rest of my life, and, um,
Yeah.
especially with all of the stuff that comes with, like, being a part of that family, everything that I experienced,
Hmm.
indecision of your partner in that is really, really hard because you
Yeah.
do spend a lot of the time feeling lonely and not supported and, um, not protected or chosen or whatever it is. And I just don't want that in a relationship. Maybe some people do. That's not for me. I would rather something that feels much more stable.
Yeah. I understand that. So I don't know if you saw this, and it may have been on that first episode that Micah said, he had no ill will towards you and he had forgiven you. I was like,
Mhm.
what is Micah forgiving you for?
Well, the list is long. It probably starts with the devil's toothpaste and the deodorant.
I mean, I would assume Micah uses some devil's toothpaste and deodorant. When he lived in LA, he seemed to have an eclectic, wonderful group of friends. So,
I I can't make sense of all of it. Um,
I was like, did I hear that right? He's forgiven her for
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
mean, if anyone had any questions, go back and I guess watch from the beginning.
Right.
I think it's
Right.
all there.
I think it is too. We have a listener in our Facebook group just said, "Okay, I've done it. I've started watching Welcome to Plath. You guys have talked it up so much. I've started to watch it from the beginning. Here's my thought. Olivia should not have helped Mariah buy that plane ticket to see her grip, which I, had forgotten about. And
Mhm.
everybody in the comments were like, keep watching. Keep watching." Um, so I remember so specifically when you and I spoke last time, and I've referenced this a lot. You said you understood why Mariah would end up going back
Mhm.
because it's easier to go with what you know than to actually change. And another thing you said that I found so fascinating, and we're still seeing it with Mariah, is you said, you understand why Mariah gets the tattoos and bleaches her hair and does this and does that and wears the clothes because it's so easy to just change the outside because you don't have to think about changing the inside. And what's so interesting what we're seeing, and I think this was on this episode, if you have the episode 3, if you haven't seen it yet, she's going over and sitting with Lydia and like giving up all her skimpy clothes And now you see on Instagram, she's changed her hair to brown. And it's just sort of like change, 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 change. But everything, like you said last time we spoke, is on the outside.
Mhm.
And she has gone back, and I just find that's why this is the best show on television. It's so fascinating.
It's a common dynamic, I think. I mean, as a kid that grew up in the fundamental world with 9 siblings, knowing so many other families in that same world, including the Plath family, it's a very common occurrence to see kids that there's like a few different outcomes that kids can have. One, they can stay because it makes sense to them. It gives them some kind of stability to hold on to
Yeah.
those beliefs, such as like
Mhm.
Olivia Plath. You can have kids that start to leave, and it's really hard to deconstruct the entire thought process from the inside out. So they just change the outside things so that they're having a little bit more fun in life. They're not so restricted, but they still don't have to build from the ground up again. And then you have kids that throw everything out and start over and start,
Mhm.
questioning everything they believe inside. And you see all of those, like, I personally see those dynamics in my siblings and then also the Plath family, which are, the two families that I knew the most about and spent a lot
Right.
of time with growing up.
Yeah. It's endlessly fascinating to me, endlessly. So we start this season. We see that Kim is living on a houseboat, which is, by the way, not really a houseboat, and she doesn't have a key to it. It doesn't run. It doesn't have power. She showers in the parking lot bathroom. Do you think all of this is smoke and mirrors? Because actually, she's living with Ken, and she's just saying she's living on this boat for the show, for the girls to have a place to visit, so it doesn't look like she's living in sin with her boyfriend.
I mean, I don't think she would consider living with her boyfriend sin anymore.
Oh, not anymore. Okay,
Yeah,
but it
like,
was before, but not now.
like anything goes now, right?
Now, okay, anything's fine now. Okay, gotcha. So many shots of the boat, and even just randomly, I was kind of rewatching episode 3 today. I was pausing on some things to take some notes, and I just happened to pause on this one shot that we've all seen. It's her Captain Kim hat next to a huge bottle of Chardonnay, and I'm like, and your little kids are coming over. They're seeing this like devil's alcohol. I just think that probably obviously you see the hypocrisy of it. It's just maddening, or probably you're just over it. But I just think like even like somebody like Ethan or the older kids, they've got to see the hypocrisy of being lambasted for drinking when they're of legal age. You and Ethan were over 21 when they showed you drinking. And then Kim got a DUI that's never been mentioned. I mean, it just has to be, the hypocrisy has to just like, probably not now. You're probably over
Well,
it. But for me as a viewer, I'm like, are you kidding me?
I think it's quite interesting sitting like in my shoes and going, oh, I was once villainized and told that I had, evil spirits in me for wanting to live a normal, free life. And I stuck to my guns and stood up for myself and said, no, I actually get to choose this for myself. And then, a few years down the line, they're living the same kind of lifestyle, but they have forgiven me, for what I did.
Right.
It feels pretty bizarre, I won't lie.
Yeah. I mean, it's just got to be like you said, like just go back and watch, or what are you seeing on your TV? Like this is, I don't know. So I want to get you to fact check a few things. Okay. So Kim was on my friend Kate Casey's podcast. You've been
Mhm.
on Kate's show as well.
Yeah.
She's a good friend of mine, and I told Kate before she had Kim on, I said, I don't think you're gonna get a lot of clarity out of her. But Kate's got 5 kids, and she just was like, I just feel like all this thing that happened with her child dying, I really want to like find a way to connect with her because she
Mhm.
is really villainized on TV. And so I, I, I felt in this interview with Kate, she contradicted a lot of things that she has flat out said on the show, or you said, or you and Ethan together told us that what happened. So she said in her interview with Kate that I want you to help me fact check this. Okay. She
Mhm.
said with Kate, she said her mom was incredible. They lived on a houseboat. It was so great. But on the show, she said like her mom was an alcoholic and that's why she was so against drinking.
Yeah, that's the only story I've ever heard from her from the time I met her about her mom was the exact same thing that she said on the show, was that her mom was an alcoholic and that relationship was broken and she pretty much, was by herself growing up.
Well, on Kate's thing, she said it was great. They moved to the farm because she wanted to take care of her mom and her stepdad, and that was just her mom was such an amazing single mother. And I was like, this is not what we've heard. I mean, if I was like Andy Cohen on a housewives show, I would scream, roll the tape. So, Then she talked about all the travels with their family band, Georgia, Florida, the Carolinas, and even Wisconsin. And she says she just really wanted her kids to not have a life constraint. She wanted her kids to have a life full of experiences and travel. But what we saw was like when Mariah wanted to go with you to California, literally Barry was like, well, that's where the devil lives. And don't,
Mhm.
watch out for the gay people in the street might try to get you.
Yeah.
So these kids were not well traveled. I mean, I think a lot of them have traveled quite a bit now,
Mhm.
but for her to say, like, no, I kept them at home in this lifestyle because I wanted them to be well traveled.
Yeah, I mean, when I met their family, I was 16, and they did not have a band at that time. They weren't playing music. They started it after they met my family.
Hmm. It's interesting.
So
Hmm.
yeah. Mm,
Okay.
I want to be careful what I say 'cause I don't want to get in trouble, but like the math is not mathing.
Okay. Then she says about you. She said it was tough with Olivia because we'd never had a good relationship, and I really tried. And I don't think I could have done anything different. I backed off when she wanted space, and I've always had good relationships with other in-laws, and I wish her the best. I wish her happiness, but it's best that she's moving on and we're moving on. Now, for my understanding, you guys did have a great relationship when you were younger, and it was kind of after you got married that it went off the rails and the whole credit card thing and all that.
Yeah, and I've talked about this on the show. I know for a fact. Roll the tapes. I know for when I first met Kim, I was 16,
Yeah.
and we had an odd relationship. And like I've talked about this on the show, where she immediately wanted to be best friends, and
Yes.
within like a year of meeting her, she was like texting me, emailing me, calling me, writing me letters, almost daily communication. She
But
hired me to build their band website. She hired me to like take photos of products, like hired me to do all of that for their band when it was starting.
mhm.
Would constantly call me, be like, I want to pick your brain on something. When I went down, like when Ethan and I were recording and I would go down to see him, I swear I spent more time with her than I did Ethan because he would go to work during the day and she would want to spend the day with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Things
Well,
changed when we were engaged, and I started being like, oh, I don't think this is your wedding to plan. I think this is my wedding to plan. And yeah, the moment I started standing up for myself and like having my own voice and opinions and thoughts is when things change. So, and I know I've said all that on the show. That's not me like giving a scoop that wasn't there. Like
no, yeah, I know.
people can
Yeah.
watch it back.
Well, that's why I was so like, she said the what?
Yeah.
What, that's not right. And then I listened to it myself. I was like, that's not what she has said on the show. And
Yeah.
um, she also said they were never interested in having a show, but once they did make a music video and a production team reached out to them, and then they thought about it. And she said, but by that point, by the time they started filming, and this is exactly what she said, our musical group was over because Olivia was in the picture. But then she said, but Hosanna had gotten married as well, and the older kids had gone on, so we didn't have our musical group anymore, but they still wanted to make the show. So I was like, so now you're saying that musical group was just like 3 years and it was didn't even happen until after you were in the picture.
I mean, yeah, I didn't, like I said, when I met them, they didn't have a band. Um, I built the website, did stock photos, all of that for them to like start the band.
Yeah.
Went with them to a lot of concerts when I was courting Ethan. I would go down and spend a couple weeks. I would go to any concerts they were doing with them. I would be responsible to keep the three youngest girls and get them dressed and like take them to the band and like keep them sitting with me. All of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Ethan can really sing, by the way.
yeah, he can sing.
We saw him, not the sad song he was singing before you came in the other day. That was sad. But we saw him on this episode 3. He's singing with Lydia and Mariah, who just need to not. And but he was singing, and I was like, he can really sing now.
Yeah, he can sing. He used to
Yeah.
sing bass in the family band.
Hmm.
Um,
So that's interesting. So then she also said to Kate that they were not a part of any religious movement at all. They didn't subscribe to any one belief. They were definitely never involved in Quiverful. She did think some of those doctrines were good. Having a lot of children is a blessing, but they were never in any one religion or any belief at all because she didn't want to be like put in a box.
oh, okay, there's some truth to that. I think
Okay.
there was a lot of different teachers that they subscribed to, that they followed their beliefs and teachings. Ethan and I met at a No Greater Joy Michael and Debbie Pearl conference that they had gone to multiple of those conferences. My family had. So like, it is true that she didn't want to be put in a box because she didn't want anyone telling her what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But they still subscribed to a lot of those different teachers' beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
and had the books in the house, raised their kids that way, all of that. So when she says that, like, there's some truth to that for sure.
Yeah. And
But
what
again,
was what was your family as far was your family the same way, kind of took from a lot of things, or are you like specifically one specific like church?
no, my family was very similar. I would say that both of our families would fall under the umbrella of like the IBLP.
Hmm. Yeah.
But my parents are very similar in like, well, we can't fully subscribe to one person because we're not going to be told what to do. But we like 90% of what they say, and 90% of what they say, and 90% of what they say. Um,
Hmm.
so, yeah, again, our families met at one of those conferences.
Interesting. You guys know I'm always telling you about Tropical Smoothie Cafe. I love it. There's one right down the street. We go constantly. You know, they've got these new summer mocktails, and I really, really love those. I love the mango berry Cosmo. I add some coconut to that. Oh, it's so good. But I want to tell you about some other stuff they have. They have a turkey bacon ranch sandwich that is delicious. For a kid's meal, they have like a turkey cheddar wrap. You can get some baked lays and a little cookie. My favorite on the kids menu is the little limeberry. That's if you just want a little smoothie, you don't want the whole thing. You guys, they have the acai bowls. They also have delicious breakfast. They have a Southwest wrap. They have an all American breakfast wrap. And, you know, for smoothies, they have those green smoothies. So if you're into that, they have that. My son's favorite smoothie is the kiwi quencher. You guys, I'm doing this off the top of my head because we order there so much. Like I said, the little limeberry I like, but I do love these new mocktails. The mocktails are only for a limited time. They have a mojito, and like I said, they have the berry Cosmo. That's my favorite. And again, don't sleep on the breakfast. Ah, get it? Don't sleep on the breakfast. Really, the breakfast wraps are delish as well. So, you guys, go to Tropical Smoothie. Try out all these things. You don't just have to try the mocktails. You don't just have to try the bowls or the wraps. Try everything. Go 3, 4 times a week. Find out what you like. See what your main order always is. We're again going with that berry Cosmo mocktail because it's a limited time. Again, the little limeberry, the kiwi quencher, the acai bowls, the breakfast. You guys, all of it. Tropical smoothie. You're on tropic time now. So Kate did ask her if she felt like she was a different person and how does she feel now? You know, she watched herself back and she said she's never watched the show ever. And she said, but if you would have told her when she had 1 or 2 kids that she'd be divorced and dating someone new, you know, she would never believe it. And she said, I cannot pinpoint the one reason why I changed. So that's interesting because I mean, I don't know what the one reason that she did such a 180 is either. It's a good for the younger kids, I guess, not great for the older ones, you
Yeah,
know?
I don't really know. I can't really speak to that. I know back when I still had a relationship with, albeit a broken one, with Mike and Mariah, and they would constantly say, like, why can't you just get along with our mom? She's changed. Like, why can't you let the past be the past? Um, and I saw that, you know, you talked about the podcast she had done. I saw that come across your page because I follow you. And interestingly enough, like, her stance of that, you know, she did everything she could, she doesn't regret her relationship with me, all of that. I think that's why I'm not okay just letting the past be the past. Like, someone can change whatever beliefs that they want about something, but if they can't take accountability for the past, then like, is there really change? And I never really trusted the change. I was
Yeah.
like, if it actually change, I think that there would be some kind of reflection and accountability, and I never got that. So I
Mhm.
didn't trust there was actual change.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my only opinion on it, really, because I have not spent time with her in many years. I see things here and there of like things that she has said or done, and I'm just like, wow, it's pretty crazy. It feels a little revisionist.
Yeah, it does. It feels revisionist, and that's kinda why I was like, I'm just gonna go by these things that she said to see if you have a, rebuttal. I mean, she did say she laughed when Kate said, like, "How many years, like, were you pregnant with all those kids?" And she was like, "I don't know." And she was like, "I have no idea." And she said to Kate, like, "You couldn't know the ages of your kids because you only have 5, but I don't know the ages of mine." She was like, but then she did say Ethan was born in 98 and Mercy was born in 13. So that's 10 kids in 15 years. And then
Mm,
she said after the death of Joshua that she did go to counseling and had so much help and had to move on because she was pregnant at the time. But when I talked to you guys, you and Ethan together, Ethan said that his mom stayed in bed for like a year, and that the
Yeah.
kids were never allowed to speak about the death of Joshua.
Mhm.
But to Kate, she said like it was all open kumbaya talked about.
I'm pretty sure on one of the seasons they talked about how she just kind of shut down, and
Hmm.
season 1 or season 2, she talked about how she just kind of shut down from life
Yeah,
and
which is understandable, of
just
course.
raised himself, and Barry did it, and she like wasn't interacting with anyone.
Hmm.
Um, so I feel like that was said differently on the show. I know that they used to have like a family website blog thing up where she told the story of Joshua. And in that story, she mentioned that she was in bed for like 9 months and like completely checked out, and the kids were raising themselves, and Barry was holding everything together.
Yeah,
And then she was like healed from that and moved on.
yeah, and
So
so nobody talks about it. Yeah,
yeah. I
so
know when
much.
I met their family, like I didn't know about him for 2 or 3 years.
Really, they
Yeah.
never mentioned that they had a brother that died.
And then when Ethan and I were engaged, I think, one day he was like, I need to show you something, like took me to the graveyard and he was like, this is where my little brother is buried. And I was like, wait,
What?
what?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, on this week's episode, you'll see she does say something about the credit card story that Ethan and Olivia told, which I was like, oh, Olivia's gonna love that. I was like, because Ethan has like, backed you up that exactly how you have told it is exactly how it happened. Um, so this week we also see Lydia and Mariah talking, and they're contemplating going to college. Oh, maybe we'll go together. What would you study? And Lydia says she'd like to take a class on like how to learn who yourself is. Like you don't
Mhm.
know who yourself is. And not one of these 9 kids have ever been encouraged to go to college, even though both of them, the parents went to college.
Mhm.
Was that the same in your home? Just like it's just like not
Well,
encouraged.
in my home, my brothers were encouraged, and my parents paid for my older brothers to go to college.
Oh
Um,
wow.
for us girls, it was not as encouraged.
Okay.
I mean,
Interesting.
I wanna go to college someday, but I know that I would have to, like, study and make up for, like, things that I didn't learn and take
Yeah.
entrance exams and all those things, and that feels really big and scary. I can't imagine how the Plaths feel because they were much more, like, into the unschooling than my family was,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and, like, didn't do a lot of schooling, so I if they wanna do that and they make it, then good for them.
Yeah. I think that I found that
Mhm.
interesting that at least they were talking about it, because there was one episode where Mariah like went to look at a college and I was like, um, so speaking of your family, so when we last spoke, your brother had passed away and you said you really weren't in touch too much with your family. Do you know if they're watching you and Lydia Grace on the show? Do you know? I mean, are there any of them that, because I know your brother lived with you for a while and then he kind of went back and
I have no idea what my family watches or thinks or anything about the show. Um, I mean, I don't keep up with them. I know that my younger brother that lived with me in
Mhm.
Florida, he has since like moved back to my parents and has a relationship with them again, and um, kind of decided that the fundamental beliefs worked for him
Okay.
and that's how he wanted to live. So there's been a falling out between me and Lydia and him.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
as a woman, it's really hard to have space in my life for men who believe in very patriarchal fundamental beliefs because it doesn't affect them, it affects the woman.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
that's not for me.
Yeah. Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be very, very hard to have a relationship with males in your family who think that. And you're like, so if you think that about women at large, you think that about me because I'm a woman, like I fall into that category.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know I talked about that or like talked about this on this season. I'm not pretty sure what episode it's in, but I know I talked about the fact that in getting divorced, my younger brother Nathan, who lived with me, he decided that like he understood Ethan's take on it and
oh my
found
God.
they found like solidarity in that together. And that was another big fallout in my relationship with him,
I bet.
was that he agreed with like Ethan's point of view on getting divorced. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know what to do then. You guys can be besties, but like then we're not going to be besties. Like
Right.
I don't know how to reconcile that. So
Wow. Oh my God. Lydia. Oh God. Okay. All right. So here's some listener questions. Okay. I think these are going to be
right.
funny. Okay. So from Alicia, if you had to choose one, Would you rather be stranded on a desert island with Kim, Barry, or Mariah? Got to be stranded.
Mm,
Kim, Barry, Mariah.
Mariah, for sure,
Yep.
because she would probably just like keep to herself
Hmm.
and be sad that she was stranded. And I would have nobody interfering with like my plan of escape and getting help and figuring it out. So I think the other two
I
have
would
very strong opinions. So
I would choose Barry because I think he could build some shelter.
maybe, but I could build a shelter just as good as him. So
Okay, all right, good. See, I have
you
no
can be
skills
stranded
in
with
that.
me. You can be
Mhm.
stranded with me. I got you. Yeah.
Yes. And Alicia also wants to know, do you prefer Ethan with beard or no beard?
When we were still together, I had a strong preference for a beard. I thought it like, made him look a little bit older,
Yes.
or have a little bit of life experience. Ironically enough, he didn't like the beard. As soon as we got divorced, he shaved it, and he didn't like short hair. And I'm divorced and I've now cut it. So,
Listen, I have said when he first came on the screen, this first episode of the season, I screamed. I was like, has he Benjamin buttoned himself completely backwards? Like what happened to him? He all of a sudden looks like he's 14 years old. The
yeah,
beard really helped, I think. Yeah.
yeah, I thought so, but to each their own. He didn't like it.
Oh, no, he didn't like it, but wow, does he seem sad. So here's a question from Julie. Why
Mhm.
didn't you have the paperwork in hand with you when you went to see Ethan?
Because it's all electronic.
Okay.
Like
So you can't
I
like physically have a pile of papers like old school and have
I mean,
somebody sign it.
you can if you want to mail them into the court. You can also just file electronically, where you're just going through a series of like screens and filling out information and
Yeah.
then putting a signature and submitting it. And that's what I wanted to do. So
Okay.
when I say paperwork, it just means like we have a document to go through.
Yeah.
Um, that yeah.
Okay. Um, Karen wants to know, do you ever reenact conversations that happened off camera? It's a good question, Karen.
No, I actually think there's a lot of conversations or things that have happened off camera that I'm like, wow, really feel like that should have been included for context. But like you have
Yeah.
to live life even when cameras are not around.
Right.
And there's a lot of things people will say like in private or do in private that don't make it on camera. I can't. I mean, there have been like concepts that we are discussed. For example, like when Ethan and I were getting divorced, I had to let the producers know of just like this is what I'm deciding to do and this is what's going forward. So you're going to show up to film and this is going to be the atmosphere.
Right.
And I was like,
Right.
oh, you guys have had a conversation about this, and yes, but of course you have to discuss it again.
Yeah.
Which
So it's not a reenactment. It's just sort of like we're going to talk about it again.
yeah, there's like topics that come up again, which is normal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I've never like reenacted a conversation that I had off camera.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course, I can always think of new things to say, so it's never the
Right.
same.
Right. Yeah. And this was a good one to end these questions on. This is from Eileen says, have you had your hot girl summer?
I have. I feel like I still am somewhat.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
still summer and you're still
yeah.
hot. So there. um, I think I want TLC to hear my prayers on this. I think you and Lydia Grace could do a spinoff show where you are helping people in your same situation that have been in these like oppressive religious situations that they want to get out of. Some people don't, and that's for them, and that's fine. But if there are people that want to, it's like a Rumspringa, like they want to get out, they want to see what it's about, that you and Lydia Grace could show them that it's not so bad out here in the big bad world. And I think Lydia Grace might be a little more like with guys and stuff, she might, and you might be more like, no, I have my apple in my purse. Um, and the two of you could like guys and girls that are wanting to like learn about the world, you could show them how to ease into it.
I think that would be cool. I've started like trying to use my social media a little bit more towards that.
Hmm.
And it's, one little step at a time. But I've toyed with the idea of like a podcast or even just like short like series on like Instagram or something, just talking about what life looks like as a young adult who's decided to leave the fundamental world, because there is so much that you have to catch up on. You're relearning everything. It looks honestly pretty messy. I know watching the show back that there's tons of mistakes I made along the way and things I was trying to figure out, and it's really hard because you're like on your own for the first time and you are maybe emotionally, developmentally a little stunted, and it's like hard to make up for that. So I think that talking about that publicly with other young kids and like, addressing that, I think that that's needed and also really wanted.
If you ever want to start a podcast, come to me. I'm your girl. I'll help you.
Thank you.
That would be amazing. So tell me, I know that you have a new guy in your life that you posted on your Instagram with a chicken finger covering his face. So what can you tell us about this guy?
Yeah, I met someone when I was not expecting it at all.
You're in LA, right?
Still based in LA. My
Yeah.
lease year is up and I'm deciding like where to go next, where to put down some roots. So I'll be moving. Um, and that comes up on like the end of the show, is the end of the season as well.
Okay.
But yeah, met someone I wasn't expecting it and took it really slow. And um, I've had a public relationship and that was really hard to have
Hmm.
so many opinions and everything. And he's more of a private person anyway. So I think this was teased in like the season teaser that you guys might get to meet him at the very end and like see a little bit of our relationship, but especially
Okay.
social media, I would rather keep that quiet.
Yeah, I believe in the super teaser. They did show you like hugging up on a guy, and then we see Lydia Gray saying that like she thinks you're like moving too fast with this guy.
I saw the super tease and I literally called her. I was like, "Hey, you want to tell me why you think that I'm being rash and not thinking things through?" She was like, "What?" And I was like, "I'm giving you a hard time. I know that like in a super tease, people say things and it's not quite in the same context, and she
Yeah.
probably had a lot more thoughts to go with it." So I was giving her a hard time, but yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. I was like, uh-oh. Uh-oh. I will tell you that another thing we talked about this week with you and Lydia Grace, I was like, really, if somebody said you were twins, we would believe it. I mean, you look so much alike on these scenes you had this week when you were at the bar. This is when you said you had the apple in your purse in case you
Yeah,
needed a snack. Um, what is the age difference between you two?
18 months.
Oh, okay. So you're just like boom, boom in the birth order together?
Yeah, the in my family, the first 6 kids are in 7 years, so we are all like super close together.
Wow. Okay. And
Yeah.
then there was a break, and then there
And then
was
it's like
four
2
more.
years between each kid and then a surprise little baby at the end.
Okay. Surprise. How old is that little baby?
13.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Well, I guess that is almost exactly the same as the Plaths, right?
very, very similar. My oldest brother was born in 93, so, like, my parents started having kids a few years before them,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, very similar.
It is every time I say something and you're like, "Yep, that was exactly like my family. We did the exact same thing."
Yeah, our
Um,
families used to joke that, like, multiple of our kids could get married, and then we would start our own little, like, town, what's the word?
I was gonna say cult.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that came to mind as well. Yeah, that used to be the joke among us. I'm very glad that didn't happen.
No, wow. Well, you could be Mother Earth or whatever. You could be the leader of the cult. I mean, after Kim, of course. After Kim, of course.
Yeah, I think I'd have to be a little more delusional to be a leader of a cult, and I have a little bit of delusion, but not that
Not
much.
that much. Let me ask you this one more thing. When she said to Kate that the her mom, who was so amazing, her mom and her stepdad, who were so great, they moved to the farm to help them out because they were both ill or whatever, and then they passed away and left them the 60 acres or whatever.
Mhm,
Whenever we would see that house, it was like bunk beds in the hall.
mhm.
So I'm just thinking, not only did they live there with not enough rooms and stuff for the kids, I mean, not even enough rooms for like 4 kids to be in a room because there was bunk beds everywhere in the halls. How did they also live there with the in-laws? Like, I don't even understand how that tiny house held all those people.
Well, after her mom died, she put her dad in, like, a senior home,
Uh-huh.
and that was shortly after they moved to the farm.
Mhm.
So, I'm trying to think. There's 1, 2.
It seems tiny, and the kitchen was
There
tiny.
there was 2 bedrooms and a loft, so like, all the girls were up in the loft, and the boys had 1 bedroom, and then Kim and Barry had the other.
Okay. That's a lot.
It was
That's
a
a
lot.
lot. And the house that Barry has now is beautiful. Every time they see it, I'm like, I want that house. It's so pretty. I hope
Mhm.
they don't sell it. I mean, I hope, because kids will come and go. He should keep it. I mean, it is interesting as you're watching it. You're like, is this show making me like Barry? Like, is Barry now, are we now on the side of Barry? Because he's just like, the kids can come back, you can do whatever. And you just can't quite tell if this whole lifestyle, the way that they lived and everything, was a choice by the two of them together, or if it was her idea and he just went along. And now that she's out of it, he's like, okay, everybody drink, everybody do whatever. It's very hard to tell what's happening there.
Both. It was both for sure. I think Barry is a little bit more into the religion of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and she was more into the like controlled atmosphere of it. And together it worked pretty well to build a bubble. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Interesting, right? Because you don't hear him talking too much about God, but I think they did say in one of the earlier seasons that like he was their like minister, like they would have church services like in their house with him as the leader. And
Mhm.
we've seen that on some other shows, like the head of the house,
Yeah, like a house
leads
church. Yeah.
like a house church. So like really, you never have to go anywhere because everything is right there on your property, including your church. you know. Oh my God, I'm just so glad they got sweet Lydia out of that kitchen
Hmm.
because she was just always in the kitchen
Yeah.
at that other house. I didn't Made us feel very sad. Or she was going to clean one of the other properties that they owned. I was like,
Mhm.
Lydia, you're better than this.
Yeah.
Um, she did say on this current episode that she had traveled a lot. She had gone on a mission, and then I don't know with what church, but she'd gone on some kind of mission, and then she kept traveling. And now she was home for a while and she's going to travel again. I was like, how is she funding all this from the TLC money? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I know that she's worked a couple small jobs in Cairo, like at a bank or a jewelry store or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Because if
happy
you
she's traveling. I hope that she really enjoys that.
when she said she had been traveling for like 6 months, I was like, that's great. Because I feel
Mhm.
like a Mariah got to travel a little bit. I definitely think, Micah got to travel a little bit. And definitely Ethan got to travel quite a bit with you. So I
Yeah,
kind of
all
feel
3 of
like,
them went on a lot of my trips.
yeah. And I think that that sort of expands your view of the world.
Mhm.
Maybe not enough. Maybe you do go back to that nice house in Cairo. I don't know. But I think at least you get to see something. So I hope the little girls, it's so terrible that everybody still calls them that. I hope that they get to travel too. Isaac, I mean, I don't know. He could just get in his plane and fly away, I guess.
Yeah, he can.
But I kept thinking, like, doesn't he, if he really wants to be like a American Airlines, Delta Airlines pilot, if he really wants to be a professional pilot, he does have to go to college.
Yeah, his I think what he's doing right now is more like private. Um, and he's not even like flying right now. He just got his license.
Hmm.
But yeah, he would have to go to college.
And he works with Ken.
He used to. I don't know if he still does or not. I know he at least Ken used to be his boss. Yeah. Back when Kim met him.
Yeah, I would recommend everybody not checking out Ken's social media. No, no, she agrees. All right, so tell me what's next for you. You're not sure where you're going to move next. You're still traveling all over doing your photography business.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still shooting weddings, shooting a lot of sessions now as well, like engagement sessions, family sessions. I have kind of done a lot of personal traveling in the last year and a half.
Hmm.
Um, I did a decent amount of traveling when Ethan and I were still together, but it just felt different to like, pay for 2 people to go on a trip and then be the one to organize it all and
Yeah.
like make it all happen. And now I'm like, whew, it's just me. If I want to go pick up and go somewhere, like I can. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not spending as much and it's an easier mental load. I've been traveling with some girlfriends and honestly just really like enjoying life and living it to the fullest. I feel like this is the most fulfilling my life has ever felt.
That's great. And I mean, I don't need to tell you, but you're so young.
Yeah.
You're so young. And to have traveled all these places, like I never went to Europe until I was 40. I mean, like to travel and be able to do all that and be able to pick up and have sort of the knowledge of like I could go to this place and I could just figure it out and I could
Mhm.
experience something new. I think that's amazing. And I think that, it's a great thing to be able to do with your sister. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know. Well,
I feel like right now I work just to make sure my bills are paid and then use the extra to like do fun things, try new experiences, make new friends, see new places. I just want to experience everything that life has to offer. I know that like my dream down the road is to be married again and to like have a couple kids and settle down and give them like a very vibrant childhood. But
yeah.
I'm not ready for all that yet. And so I
Yeah.
just want to like embrace life and everything it gives me. I feel like I'm rebuilding and kind of starting over. I'd never thought I would be divorced at 26.
Yeah.
Just living it up and enjoying all of it.
I love that. I love that. Well, I will tell my TLC people about idea for the spinoff with you and your sister to help people as counselors to help. There's that show Breaking Amish where the Amish
Mhm.
people come out and they go in their Rumspringa. It's like, so you
Yeah.
guys could do that, but for the fundamentalists, but they don't need to go back.
Yeah. The run
Yeah.
doesn't last forever.
There's a guy on a new show on TLC that's great. It's called Forbidden Love.
Oh, yeah. 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 I saw a clip of that the other day.
He's Amish
Yeah.
and he just like was roofing in the town and met this woman. And now they're, like, married and having a baby, but of course, surprise, surprise, all of a sudden he's addicted to, um, porn on his phone because he's never first of all, never had a phone or electronic, never knew what porn was, never knew what sex was, and now, of course, she's like, "Now we've got a real problem on our hands," like,
Is
figuratively
that
and
all
literally.
covered in that show?
Yeah, it's a really good show.
Dang it. I should start saying more things. Like, I didn't know we could talk about all kinds of wild things.
Oh, the things that they say on that show are nuts.
I feel like Plathville's pretty PG.
Oh, this is what we say about Plathville all the time. It's like, it's always just good, clean fun. Even with you and your sister talking about sex. I was like, even Olivia and her sister talking about sex, you're like, you're so crazy with all your condoms. You're crazy. I go, everything with them is just good. They just sit around and play the guitar and they're talking about like divorce and all this stuff. And it's like just good, clean fun, everything. Just gonna play a board game and talk about our trauma.
Ah, the life.
Oh, man. Well, I am so happy to see you and so happy to talk to you. And maybe when we get to the end of the season, will you come back
Absolutely.
and we can kind of like
Yeah, we can kinda,
go
like,
over
talk everything that's happened, yeah, 'cause I
everything that's
there's a lot
happened?
more to come, yeah.
And if you want to talk about somebody on the show having a porn addiction, I'd love to hear about it.
Oh, no. No, I wasn't saying that specifically. I was just saying maybe I should start talking about some more things that are not quite so PG.
Please, please. We'd love it. All the good, clean fun. It wears us out. We're like, they're just rolling tires in the backyard and playing the guitar.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, everybody's traumatized. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media and if they want to talk to you about a photography session.
On social media, you can find me on Instagram, Olivia Marie Plath, and link in my bio for my website there. It's currently undergoing a revamp. I built that website like 5 years ago, so I'm
Mm.
rebuilding it to update like where I am currently 9 years into wedding photography. But yeah, you can still find my website and the link in my Instagram bio if you wanted to chat about photography.
Okay. Are you going to be in the DC area anytime soon?
I am actually. I have a lot of DC work this year. I'm
Okay.
currently in DC like every couple of months.
Okay. Well, don't hang up. We're going to talk about that. Okay, everybody, make sure you follow Olivia on Instagram. Make sure you're watching Welcome to Plathville. It's on Tuesday nights. As I've said a zillion times, it's the best show ever, not just on TLC, but on television. That's my opinion. And so Olivia's going to come back at the end of the season and we'll recap some more. So thank you, Olivia. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ads not read by me, Mary Payne, don't necessarily reflect the views of Pink Shade. If you'd like to listen to ad-free, you're going to go on over to Supercast or Patreon, and you can find the links to Pink Shade Prime at pinkshadepodcast.com.